Okay. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you all today. It's going to be a great day here in northern Minnesota. My name is Dr. Jeff Evenson. I am a board certified doctor of holistic health. I am not a medical doctor. I do not practice medicine. I don't pretend to practice medicine. I do not prescribe. I do not diagnose, cure, or treat. I simply help people get their health back without drugs and surgery. And it's really a job that taps into my passion. I'm very passionate about helping people, turn things around, because usually the people that come see me have exhausted all their avenues with the conventional medicine establishment, and their doctors simply are not their medical doctors are simply not hearing them. They're not listening. And if they actually took the time, hold on, I missed turning on one button here. If they actually took the time to listen to their patients, they might actually be able to figure out what's going on with them without just grabbing their prescription pad and stroking a note and whatnot. But it's a topic, it came up again this week. It's really interesting when I'm working with new clients, because it may be their first exposure to quantum nutrition testing or nutrition response testing or any type of muscle testing, and they're always amazed at how much information that I can flush out using that technique out of their body. And I'm thinking of a client that I had seen last week, and she was in such disbelief that I told her she likely had parasites. And if you do a search on the symptoms of what parasites create or can cause in the human body, every one of the symptoms that she had hit the check mark, you know. Um, but there's a level of fear there too in this that came up, because why are we seeing parasites in America? This is We're a first world country. We shouldn't be seeing parasites in our country, um, but we do. It's very common. A couple of years ago when I met Dr. Todd Watts, somebody asked him, "How do you know somebody has parasites?" And he said, "It's a simple test. You can take your two fingers, put it up here on your neck, and do you feel that thumping, that pulse beat?" And everybody does that, of course, and says yes. He goes, "Then you have parasites." Okay, they're so prevalent in our country, it's not funny. Um, and so it made me think of the theme for today's show. Is I wanted to talk about, well, I titled the show, "You Can't Heal What You Can't See." And so we're going to talk about the hidden toxins that are blocking your progress to healing. Okay. So it's going to be an interesting topic. I even have a picture to show you um, as we get further down in. But yeah, let me open up the comments here, and if you're able to comment in the live chat in whichever service you're streaming from, just throw a hi in there and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see who that is and where across the spectrum people are watching from. And there's still people jumping on, which is good. That's why sometimes I do a longer intro, just to get people on, give people time to get on the broadcast and whatnot. So welcome. If you're watching from whatever streaming service, throw a hi in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. So as I said, I'm Dr. Jeff Evenson. I'm a certified doctor of holistic health. I'm a holistic lifestyle coach, a prime health coach. I've got all the papers that hang on the wall. The difference is I'm not just paper smart. I have taken the time over the last 16 years, 16 plus years. I've been doing this work to understand what is going on in the human body that keeps us from healing. Okay, I'm a believer that God designed our bodies to heal, and we just need to remove what's in the way, and that's the work that I do. So today's topic is something that is going to hit close to home. You can't heal what you can't see, and that phrase has been echoing in my mind lately, and maybe, just maybe, it's a word for you too. Okay, because here's the truth: you can do all the right things, eating clean, taking your supplements, going to bed on time, even praying and journaling, and still you're stuck. You're tired, you're foggy, you're frustrated, symptom chasing, and wondering, what am I missing? So I've lived that question myself. I am that question. Even as someone who practices what I preach, who leads others in work, I've recently hit my own wall. I had a full lab panel done, it probably a couple months ago now. And guess what showed up in my lab panel? Mold, aflatoxin B1. Environmental toxins are still out there, like phthalates, plasticizers, mycotoxins, heavy metals. And I even have been working on some emotional detox that kind of knocked me sideways. Um, but that's part of the process. That's part of the journey that we're on. Okay. So these things, they're not just floating around in theory. They were in me. They are in me. And I couldn't see them, not until I looked deeper. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay. The unseen burdens that block your healing, the invisible enemies in your environment, your habits, your tissues, and yes, even your emotional story that silently weigh your body down. So, now if you've been around here a while, you know I don't believe healing comes in a bottle. Okay? That's why my approach is holistic, whole person. Nutrition is only one piece. Supplements are only one piece. To truly get well, we have to also look at your lifestyle. We have to look at the stress that you're not addressing, the spiritual clutter you're still holding. And it reminds me, yesterday I talked to a client. She came in for a visit. Hadn't seen her in a couple months, because she's in the maintenance phase, and she kind of comes in for a checkup when she needs. And she told me that she put in a leave of absence for her teaching job, and since she did that, her life has exploded in positivity, in energy. She was getting rid of the stress. I see so many teachers. I've worked with so many teachers over the years that they reach a point where they just have to throw in the towel, and they do that. And I'm not criticizing them at all. It's just a drastic awareness of how much stress is in that type of job. And when they let the stress go, their body will shift and start to heal. Okay. There may be spiritual clutter you're still holding on to. There's food-like substances that are marketed as health. The thoughts you release, the thoughts that you rehearse and repeat, that tell your body it's still unsafe. And then there's the toxin load that's been building up maybe since childhood and hasn't been cleared. Okay. In holistic healing, we're not just chasing symptoms, we're asking better questions. And I'm asking why the body is burdened, inflamed, exhausted, or stuck. And that's where tools like quantum nutrition testing come in. When we test your body's energy field, it tells us the truth, even when your blood work looks normal. It tells us the real root cause, the hidden mold, the parasite pocket, the mercury from an old filling, or the grief you've never processed. So today I want to walk you through a different lens, a new way of seeing your healing journey. Because if you're not getting better, it's not because you're broken. It's likely because something is blocking the process. And until you see it, you can't heal it. And so we're going to talk about what toxins might be hiding in your body right now. Why we're going to talk about why detoxing too early might make you worse. Talking about what drainage really means and why it matters. And then how you can partner with your body to finally release what's been holding you back. This one's going to be raw, it's real, and a bit revealing. So grab your coffee, breathe deep, and let's get into it. I've got my coffee right here. Cheers. And if you have any questions along the way, throw them in the chat and I will try to, in the comments, I will try to get them answered. Okay. So, this first segment here, we're going to talk what are hidden toxins, okay, and why you might be carrying them around. So, let's go to the beginning. And when I say hidden toxins, what do I mean? Well, I'm not just talking about some vague idea of chemicals or pollutants from factory smoke. I'm talking about the real, measurable, often overlooked burdens that your body is carrying and has been for years. Let me name a few of them. Mycotoxins, the toxic, the toxic byproducts of mold. These aren't always visible. They're often airborne, microscopic, and you might not even know they're there. Mold in your bathroom fan? In your car? In the HVAC system? At your workplace? You don't have to live in a flooded house to be mold toxic. And to give you an idea, I actually have a picture from um, a client that sent in, let me close this window here, from a client that sent in a picture of mold. Okay. And you can see that this is a petri dish, and they laid the petri dish out in the open for 24 hours so it gathers all the air. This is all taken from air exposure in that person's workplace. Okay. And then what you do with a petri dish like this is after you let it sit out for 24 hours, sometimes you can let it sit for an hour, cover it up, wrap it in tinfoil, and then you put the petri dish somewhere kind of warm, not super warm, not hot, and not cold. You want to give it time so it can germinate. And after a week of germinating, they opened up the tinfoil, and this was an example. This is an extreme example of mold exposure in a person's work environment. Okay, one. This is from a person that I'm not seeing as a client. My client who used to work at that place showed it to me because she ended up moving and starting her own business. Um, and this is from a friend of hers who stayed behind and did a mold sample of the air because the landlord of the property said there's no mold. Well, look at that. It's hard to refute that there's no mold in that place. Okay, it's phenomenal the amount of mold in there. Um, and so mold is just one of the hidden toxins. Okay, another one, heavy metals, and this is where you get mercury from dental fillings, aluminum from deodorant. Okay, and I read something last week that said if there was no aluminum in our diet, in our bodies, we wouldn't have dementia. Think about that. Where would you get aluminum? Well, vaccines. You get aluminum from deodorant. It could be coming in from your cookware. Um, it can come in from medications, other medications. There's so many different places where aluminum can get into the body. And then we can have other heavy metals, lead from old pipes or paints. These metals, they don't just pass through. They lodge deep in the tissues and organs, especially the brain and the nervous system. Okay. Next, we have environmental toxins. These are things like pesticides, glyphosate, phthalates, parabens, flame retardants in furniture. Could be formaldehyde. New construction places can have formaldehyde off-gassing out of the carpeting. Or if you put new carpet in your house, the formaldehyde can off-gas out of the carpet. Plastics that leach into your water and food. You're breathing and absorbing these daily, even when you eat clean. And there are recent studies that show that men today have microplastics in their testicles, and women have it in their ovaries. The next hidden toxin is parasites. I talked about that earlier. I know it sounds crazy to some people, but you don't need a tropical vacation to have a parasite issue. Parasites are more common in the United States than most doctors admit, and many of them are microscopic, hiding in biofilms, releasing waste that further burdens the liver, your immune system, and your gut. And when I get you on a proper protocol to help your body handle that naturally, the parasites will leave and you can start pooping them out. You might have them come out of your sinuses. Any other orifices might have parasites coming out. Um, yeah, it's crazy. I could show you picture upon picture upon picture of these things that people are pooping out. That's how I always joke. I know I've arrived as a holistic practitioner when my clients are texting me pictures of the parasites they're pooping out. It's crazy. And then another crazy thing is all of the EMF exposure, the electromagnetic frequency exposure, and that comes from cell phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, smart meters on the house. It's constant exposure to man-made frequencies that disrupt our natural rhythms and may weaken your energetic field. And then there's the one that no one talks about, the emotional and energetic toxins. Okay? These can be unresolved grief, fear, rage, bitterness, trauma that never got a voice, stress that never got discharged. These experiences literally create a physiological imprint. It can create tension in the fascia. It can suppress your immune system, dysregulation in the nervous system. And no supplement in the world will clear what your heart is still carrying. So you see, the toxic load we're talking about isn't just what you ate last week. It's everything that your body's been exposed to and wasn't able to process fully, to fully process or eliminate. Okay, hold on, excuse me. Sorry about that. Louis apparently needed to come inside really bad. Um, and so here's the kicker: most of those toxins are invisible. We can't see them without a microscope, anyways. You can't see them. You don't always feel them until you do. You get chronic fatigue, brain fog, joint pain that moves around, histamine issues, digestive sensitivity, or just a feeling like your body is off, but no one can tell you why. This is the part of healing that most people miss. They think they're just getting older, or it's stress, or maybe I need another supplement. But if your body's overloaded with hidden toxins, then every other healing protocol is just spinning wheels. This is why clients often come to me saying, I've tried everything. I've tried diets, detox teas, hormone balancing, and I still don't feel better. And I'll say, have you ever been tested for mold, for parasites, for phthalates, for trapped trauma? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So here's the good news. Your body is incredibly resilient when you stop overwhelming it. When you identify and begin to remove these hidden toxins, the shift can be massive. It's like taking off a weighted backpack you didn't even know you were carrying, but first you have to see it. And one example that I'm thinking of, with EMF, the electromagnetic frequencies, is I had a man come in. His sleep was horrid. He said he was lucky to stay asleep for an hour at a time during the night. He just could not sleep. He'd sleep for an hour, get up for a couple hours, sleep again, get up, sleep again, and it was that unbroken. And after a few weeks in the program, I should have started seeing improvement, but I wasn't. Okay. Well, that's when that happens, then I go out of the box. I said, okay, there must be something in your environment that is still exposing you to this problem. And so I started asking him. I started, give me an inventory of what's, in your bedroom. Is there a TV in there? I said, and he said, yes, it's at the far end of the wall. I said, okay. Is there, what's on your nightstand? He goes, well, I have a clock, a light, and he's going on. And I said, is there anything else? He goes, oh yeah, now to think about it, my Wi-Fi router is sitting there because that's where the internet connection comes into the house. And I said, so your Wi-Fi router is sitting on your nightstand? He goes, yes. I said, you have to go home and get that out of your bedroom immediately. Put it somewhere in the house that isn't going to interfere with anybody's bedrooms or sleep. So he put it out in the garage. The next week when I saw him, he said that night was the best 7.5 hours of sleep that he had had in who knows how long. Because that Wi-Fi router was sitting there cooking his freaking brain, his nervous system, and keeping him awake. He couldn't rest in that frequency. And once he removed it, his sleep came back, and then his health came back. Okay? So sometimes it's like being a detective in this kind of work, is working with the person to figure out, okay, let's figure this out. And I'm willing to do that. That's my job, to help people figure this kind of stuff out. So we're going to go deep here on the next segment, and it's going to be the linchpin of teaching today. We're going to talk about drainage and detox. All right. So, drainage and detox, and it's always a reminder, if you have any questions, throw it in the comments, or just throw in the comments who you are or where you're watching from. I like to see where on the spectrum of things people are watching from. So, good morning if you just joined the show. All right. So, now that we've started to uncover the invisible burdens the body may be carrying, like mold, metals, parasites, plastics, trauma, there's something critical we need to address. Okay? Most people try to detox too soon. They buy the latest juice cleanse or flush kit or heavy metal binder that they saw online. They jump into a parasite protocol they found on TikTok. Or maybe they try a liver cleanse they read about in a book. And what happens? Well, they feel worse. Nausea, headaches, rashes, fatigue, brain fog. And they say, detox doesn't work for me. Or worse, my body is just broken. But that's not true. The real problem is that detox was never the first step. Drainage was. So, what is drainage? Well, let me break this down simply, okay? Detox is the mobilization. It's going to move stuff that you're pulling out of your tissues. You're pulling toxins out of your tissues, your cells and organs, and you're bringing them back into circulation, okay? Drainage is the elimination of those toxins, moving them out of the body. And that includes through bowel movements, which we need to see daily, complete elimination daily, urine, lymphatic flow, liver and bile production, kidney filtration, sweat. And your glymphatic clearance through deep sleep. Yes, your brain has its own drainage system. And here's the problem: if those drainage routes are not open and you begin detoxing anyway, you're just releasing toxins into traffic jams. They recirculate, they find new tissue to lodge into, and your symptoms get worse. Not because detox is bad, but because the exit routes were closed. So think of it like a house, okay? Imagine you've lived in a house for 40 years. You've got clutter in the attic, dust in the vents, old boxes in the basement. And now imagine someone says, let's clean house. And they run up to the attic, rip open all the boxes, toss everything into the hallway. But they never open the front door. What do you think happens? The dust clouds the air. The clutter builds up in the living room. You can't breathe. You can't move. You feel worse than when you started. That's detox without drainage. So drainage is the gentle art of preparation. And here's what I do in my practice, whether I'm working with a new mom, a retired Navy vet, maybe like myself, or even a child, I start with drainage. I open the pathways slowly, gently, intentionally. I will never put together a detox protocol for somebody without first having drainage involved. I support the liver, gallbladder, lymph, kidneys, and gut. I don't care how toxic you are on paper. If your body isn't ready to let go, we're not going to force it. We invite it, we prepare it, and we listen to it. Your body is not a machine, it's a masterpiece. And masterpieces require respect. So let me give you a few signs that your body is not ready to detox. Okay? You're not pooping daily, or you have loose, unformed stools. You wake up groggy, like sleep didn't reset you. You feel puffy, inflamed, or like your face, your hands, your feet retain fluid. You're sensitive to smells, supplements, or chemicals. You get headaches easily or feel nauseated when doing cleanses. You feel anxious or jittery on detox products. You have skin eruptions. Excuse me. You have skin eruptions, rashes, or eczema that flare with the protocols. You're tired but wired. You're exhausted yet unable to rest. These are all signs your drainage pathways are congested. And if you ignore them, detox becomes a war zone inside your body. And I'll be honest, I learned this the hard way as well. In my own healing journey, I've jumped into detox protocols too fast. I knew I had mold in my system because a house that I lived in a couple of years ago, well, before I moved up here, had black mold in it. And I wanted to get that stuff because as a holistic practitioner, I knew I had to get that out of my system. So I started taking detox protocols right away, and I forgot the most important lesson. I didn't make sure my drainage pathways were open. So now my system is really clogged up. Add on top of that years of Navy stress, my time in the service, my lack of sleep, EMF exposures, gut issues. Okay. And so when I started binding and pulling, it backfired on me. My energy crashed. My mind fogged up. I started having emotional detox symptoms I wasn't ready for because I didn't respect the foundation. So now I make sure I build from the ground up every single time with everybody. So here's how I might support drainage. When I work with clients, here are a few things I often incorporate into a customized phase one plan for you. Okay. I'm going to look at liver and lymphatic support. I might look at products from companies like Energetics Drainage Tone or Cellcore KL Support or Standard Process Livco. I have a lot of tools in the toolkit that are holistic, natural, and designed to help the body, designed from nature to help the body move. Then I might have to look at kidney drainage for people. There's some gentle herbs out there like parsley, marshmallow root, or juniper. And I have products that contain these herbs. So we don't have to go out. I'm not going to tell you to go to the grocery store and buy parsley. Maybe you could, um, or marshmallow root. Okay. Then we have the bowel movement regulation. All right. And we might use magnesium or bitters or Colax if needed. And then there's lymphatic movement that you can do with dry brushing. I'll tell you yoga, heavy breathing, a rebounder. You can try castor oil packs. And the lymphatic support, that's the brain drain. Deep sleep hygiene. We're going to look at blue light blockers and supporting melatonin naturally. And there's energetic drainage, journaling, prayer, breath work, emotional release. Okay. And sometimes the best drainage tool is simply stillness, giving your body margin, time, breathing room. So, detox should feel like release, not trauma. And the body will let go when it knows it's safe. If you're stuck in your healing, if you've tried everything and still feel heavy, you may not need another detox. You may need drainage. And so we're going to dive into the hidden toxins most people never test for, talk about how they might disrupt your body every day. Okay. And so the next part could really unlock the breakthrough that you've been praying for. And it's my time here to share this screen. So in the shameless plugs, if you go to my website, if you go to my homepage, it's evensonholistic.com. Let me fill the whole screen there. Okay. Over here is the three lines that you can click on and it opens the menu. And you can come down to resources, trusted resources. And this is a resource page that I am affiliated with, different products and whatnot. I test these things, I use them. I don't put anything on this page that I do not use myself. Okay. And so, since we're talking about detox, what I wanted to show you is pure water. If you're serious about really detoxing, maybe you live in the city and you have access to tap water. I live out in the country. I have my own well. The well water tests clean, but I still have this. It's a water distiller. Okay, and so I recommend having. They have countertop models and they have whole house models. I have a countertop model that I can make a gallon of distilled water um, several times a day. Okay, and I'll drink distilled water when I'm in a serious detox phase. Okay, and some people really need this, and so you can click this link here. It'll give you a discount. Okay, when you go out there to look for a distiller, and if I click on that link, it's going to bring me to pure water. Okay, and the model that I'm thinking about is the countertop model. This one right here. This is the one that I have. And I love it. Okay. Um, and you would just add that to the cart. Okay. And you get to check out. It is worth the time and money to do that. Okay. One of those shameless plugs. All right. So let's get into it. Now that you understand the importance of drainage before detox, we need to ask the next question. What exactly are we trying to detox from? Okay, because most people have a very narrow view of toxicity. They think toxins equal dirty water, pollution in the air, or eating fast food. And yeah, those count. But some of the most damaging toxins in the body are the ones that we never talk about, the ones hiding in plain sight. So let's unpack a few of them. Okay. Mold and mycotoxins. This is, again, you don't have to live in a water damaged house to have mold toxicity. Here's what I've seen over and over again: mold growing behind the fridge, mold in the air vents of a car, mold at the office, especially older buildings that have drop ceilings, campers, RVs, basements, even hotels and vacation rentals. The conference that I went to down in Florida just a few weeks ago already had mold in it. Some of the rooms were really strong, and thankfully, the room I was in, I think, was a pretty newly renovated room, so it was clean. I didn't notice any mold smells. You can usually, if you're smelling that musty smell anywhere, you can guarantee almost that there's going to be mold in there. Okay, and so what matters most is exposure can um, add up to immune sensitivity. You may be genetically less able to clear mold. It can sit in the body quietly for years until a trigger: stress, surgery, trauma, COVID brings it roaring to life. I can't count the number of times that I've asked somebody, have you been in mold, ever exposed to mold? And they might say, yeah, over 10 years ago. Okay. And oftentimes you can find out that they've had a recent trigger. Might have just went through a stressful period in their life. The mycotoxins, the chemicals mold produces, can suppress the immune system. It can inflame the brain. It can clog your detox pathways, and it can throw off your hormones. And here's the kicker: you might not even see mold, but your body knows it's there. And oftentimes, quantum nutrition testing will reveal it before the labs do. Okay. So the second thing is parasites. You can't see these. You look at your body. I don't have parasites. Of course, you can't see what's inside your body. I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out. This isn't about horror movie tapeworm kind of things. What I'm talking about are microscopic parasites. Could be cysts buried in tissues, organ level infections, parasites wrapped in biofilm, and so the labs might miss them entirely. And truth be told, a lot of times when you do a parasite test, the labs don't even know what they're looking for. They don't know what they're testing for, because not all parasites are microscopic. I can tell you, when I did my parasite purge, my cleanse, the longest parasite that I pooped out, I had to know. So I fished it out, was over 6 feet long. That's crazy. How long had that thing been in there? When did I get exposed to all this? Who knows? Because I served 20 years in the Navy, and I've been all over this planet multiple times. And the stressful trigger for me to where my body finally said, hey, you got to take care of this, was shortly after I moved up north and was setting up my new household. An activity that was good stress. I call it a good stress. Yeah, it's stressful setting up a new house. I was doing some renovations and all that. That sometimes I consider some of that good stress, but I think it was stressful enough where it was a trigger. It was just the whole process. My body finally said enough. Okay, you can have uh, many practitioners, especially those trained in functional nutrition, are now calling parasites the root cause, because parasites aren't just a problem on their own. They harbor heavy metals. They love to eat up that stuff in your body. And when we start poking at them, a lot of times if I see people moving from a heavy metal detox to a toxic chemical detox, and then back to a heavy metal detox, back to a chemical detox, in the earlier years when I first started practicing, those were signs that usually parasites are involved because they're spewing that stuff out. Now, with the improved muscle testing that I do with quantum nutrition testing, I really can get down into it. They carry mold spores. They steal nutrients off you. This is why your cravings can often be through the roof. They alter your neurotransmitters. They can interrupt your sleep cycles. They might trigger emotional reactivity. Yes, mood issues can stem from parasitic toxins. I've seen this in people. One client I worked with, when she started, she was one of the most angry looking people around. And after a week, just after a week on the protocols, and this is not always typical, her mood shifted. She was a much nicer person to be around. People actually approached her and asked her if she was okay because she was doing better. She was approachable. Good morning, Marie. Marie hails from Minnesota. All right. So I've seen, here in the United States, we've been told over and over we don't have that here. Well, that's where I throw the bullshit flag. We do have that here. I would say my practice will move in and out, but I would say 75% of the people that I work with have had parasites, and we get them all cleared out. The reason I don't suggest the medical route, the prescription route for parasites, is because the prescription only goes after one life cycle of the parasite. It doesn't go after all of the life cycles of the parasite. It won't go after the eggs. It won't go after the larva. It just goes after the adults. Well, after the adults leave, what happens? The eggs hatch. Now you have infestation again. And so with the natural remedies that I work with, I have some good kill lines. It will go after all of the life cycles of the parasite. Okay. So I've seen parasite overload in teachers, in farmers, in health coaches, even kids, all living right here in rural Minnesota. And since I've gone virtual with virtual telehealth, I've seen it all over the country. So if you've eaten sushi, undercooked meat, you drink well water, and yes, I have well water. You have pets, that's a big one. Dogs and cats. Or if you've traveled internationally, chances are you've been exposed. And if you're bloated, itchy, grinding your teeth, or have full moon mood swings, your body may be trying to tell you something. The third one here is heavy metals. This one is sneaky, okay? We think of heavy metal toxicity as something that only happens in like industrial settings, but it's everywhere. It's mercury in the silver amalgam fillings. And when those fillings are removed improperly, it can get even worse in your body. It can even create worse things in your body. And if your dentist tells you that mercury is safe, it's time to find a new dentist. I'm calling you out, guys. I know you sign NDAs when you go through school that says you won't tell people that mercury is in the filling, that's in the fillings is bad. It's bullshit. It's bad. Mercury fillings, amalgam fillings are bad. Right now, the best option we have are the composite fillings, and it's too early to know if there's long-term effects on those. But I know the long-term effects on mercury is just huge damage to the body. Aluminum in cookware, deodorant, and vaccines. Arsenic in rice and contaminated water. Sometimes it'll show up in chicken. Cadmium in cigarette smoke, even secondhand or from parents. And I had cadmium come up recently, and the person isn't a smoker. So where do we get all this stuff? It's just exposure, things we get exposed to over time that we're driving our body around through. And as I said before, lead from old homes and pipes. These metals lodge in tissues, especially fatty areas like the brain, liver, and nerves, and they're slow moving. They're hard to excrete and very disruptive to your mitochondria, your hormones, and cognitive function. One big tip off: you're doing everything right, and you still feel wired, tired, foggy, or flat. Heavy metals can mimic depression, they can mimic fatigue, they can mimic aging, but they're not inevitable. They're just invisible until you know where to look. Now we have some endocrine disruptors in plastics. Okay. We live in a plastic soaked world. And even if you drink from a glass bottle and eat organic, these chemicals are still finding their way in. Phthalates used to soften plastics, found in cosmetics, shampoos, fragrances, even receipts. The printed receipts that you get, they're all some kind of thermal transfer, whatever. You can get plastics from them through your fingertips. I hate touching receipts. Then you have BPA, the bisphenol A, and its so-called safe replacements, like PFAS, the forever chemicals used in non-stick cookware and waterproof clothing. There's parabens used as preservatives in beauty products. These toxins mimic or block hormones. They disrupt testosterone. They mimic estrogen, and they can confuse the body's messaging system, right? And it shows up as fatigue, irregular cycles, low libido, PCOS, insulin resistance, and even infertility. And again, most labs won't catch these early. But quantum nutrition testing, it often flags these patterns before symptoms even show up. So somebody asked a question in the chat about DMSO, which is it's approved only by the FDA. I guess I had to look it up real quick, for treating interstitial cystitis, which is a painful bladder condition. Okay, but you get into the holistic and alternative health fields, DMSO is often used off-label because it has properties for anti-inflammatory and analgesic. It can reduce swelling and pain in muscles, joints, and soft tissues. It can be an antioxidant. It can be there for circulatory support. It can be used as a carrier agent, cellular detox, neurological support. And I've been seeing more and more discussions in the alternative world about how DMSO can actually be a benefit to what's going on in the body. Okay. Um, but it can be like a cellular solvent. It helps break up congestion and stagnation in tissues. I have never worked with it myself in my practice, um, just in the interest of full disclosure, but it someday may be a tool that comes into play. All right. Thanks for the question. Um, so now there's emotional and spiritual toxins. Okay. I've done shows solely on this before. Okay. So we're going to go deep. It's a category no one wants to admit exists, and yet it might be one of the most important of all. You can't detox what your nervous system is still protecting. And I've learned this in the last few weeks in my own journey, how much the nervous system can be on full alert, protecting stuff and holding on to stuff. Okay. I've worked with men and women who have done all the protocols. They've spent tons of money, taken every supplement I recommended, and still felt blocked. Okay. And when we sat quietly and we talk about it, and we can do testing energetically, muscle testing. I can muscle test the energy field through quantum nutrition testing. We found that the toxin wasn't chemical, it was emotional. Okay. And it can be a lot of things. It could be abandonment stored in the gut, it can be betrayal in the liver, grief in the lungs, rage in the kidneys, shame in the reproductive organs. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. And that's why I often say the physical burden is often a mirror of the emotional one. And that's how it started for me. I was having trouble. I've been having trouble with my pelvis and my leg. I would stand up and the front of my leg goes numb. So I tried all the normal routes, chiropractic, deep tissue massage to get it relieved. I was having trouble with an L5 and down on my sacrum and all that. But it got the healing through those avenues got me to a point, but it wasn't getting me all the way there. And it was a friend who suggested that I look deeper. Okay. And that's why I've been working with an herbalist who works with Bach flower essences, and I've been working on the emotions that have been trapped in my body. My nervous system has been holding on to this shit for, holy crap, a lot of years. Okay. And it takes time to get that out. And since I've been processing that out, and I'm not afraid to say, I've sat in my front yard just sobbing, just letting this energy out, just feeling it instead of ignoring it so it can get out. And since I've been doing that, I've not had issues with my leg or my pelvis. So you want to lose the inflammation? You might need to forgive. You want to heal your hormones? You might need to release shame. You want to fix your gut? You might need to grieve what you've been holding in. And that's why I will sit with clients and explore this stuff. I'm not a talk therapist, I'm not a counselor, but I can muscle test where this stuff is. And I can give some prompting questions and things for my client to sit and think about, even go home and journal or discuss with other people. This is why I coach on lifestyle and not just lab markers. It's why I believe true healing is both biochemical and spiritual. I'm not talking religion. Don't confuse spiritual with religion. It's two totally different things. Talking about your soul living in this human body, this physical body, and your spiritual connection to something bigger than ourselves, to the universe. So here's the bottom line. The things that are blocking your healing might not be obvious. They might be silent, subtle, slow building, but they are not permanent. When we uncover them with tools like quantum nutrition testing, can even do functional labs, can even spiritual led discernment. Okay. We give your body the chance to finally exhale, to stop fighting, to stop surviving, and to start healing. So let's talk about the power of energetic and functional testing. Okay. Um, you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed at this point, and that's okay. You might be asking, how do I know if I have mold or parasites or emotional toxins? Where do I even begin? Do I need labs? Do I need testing? Do I need prayer? My answer, yes, but not in the way that the world teaches. Because what I'm going to share with you now is different. It's not about just chasing numbers on a blood panel, it's about listening to your body's intelligence, physically, energetically, and spiritually. That's what holistic is: mind, body, and spirit. And so there's two worlds of testing. There's functional and energetic. And in my practice, I use both. And when used together, it can become a lens of clarity most people have never experienced. So let's break it down. The functional lab testing, and yes, we can get functional lab tests for people. It includes mycotoxin panels to detect mold, environmental toxin profiles, heavy metal screenings, organic acids, GI mapping, hormone panels, food sensitivity testing. These labs are precise and data driven. Okay. They show you what's there and often how long it's been there. They're helpful when someone needs hard proof or when a case has become complex. But here's the truth. Labs only show what they're looking for. And if you don't order the right one, you might miss the entire picture. And that's why I don't rely so heavily on labs, because sometimes it's not testing for the right things anyways. That's where the other side of testing comes in: quantum nutrition testing. This is the part that's harder to explain, but once you experience it, it changes everything. Quantum nutrition testing uses frequency attunement, muscle response, and intention based energy testing to uncover what your body is ready to reveal. When I'm muscle testing someone with quantum nutrition testing, it's like I'm having a dialogue with their body, not with them, not here in my head. It's all based off the muscle response and the frequency response that I'm getting. And here's what that means: every organ, tissue, and system has an energetic signature. So do toxins, pathogens, emotions, and stress patterns. When we test your body against these frequencies, we're not asking the mind, we're asking the field. Your energy field tells the truth even before symptoms show up or labs confirm it. And I often say that your body is broadcasting the problem. You just need someone who knows how to listen. So, with quantum nutrition testing, I can identify which organs are stressed, what toxins or pathogens are contributing, what layers of emotional or spiritual burden may be blocking healing, and what natural supports your body is ready to receive. It's not guesswork, it's not hocus pocus, it's attuning to the deeper signal your body is already giving off. And so the real magic is seeing what's been missed. I can't tell you how many times clients have walked through my doors and said, "My doctor says I'm fine, but I don't feel fine." And they're right, because labs came back normal. But quantum nutrition testing tells a deeper story. It can tell us about mold hidden in the lungs, emotional grief stored in the liver, parasites creating a cortisol roller coaster, a trauma imprint from childhood still held in the gut, the wrong supplement creating the right symptoms. When we bring those things into light, healing begins. And here's something else I love about quantum nutrition testing: it puts the client back into the center of their healing journey. It's not about what I think is best, it's about what your body says is best. So my process from discovery to clarity, here's a quick outline of what working with me typically looks like. Initial consult. We're going to talk through your symptoms, story, and history. I want to know the whole history. Without the whole picture of what's going on, I won't understand your story. And I need that information. Then I'm going to do a Q&T scan, a quantum nutrition testing scan. I test your body's energy field for organ stress, toxin load, and root interference. We're going to get down into the root causes of what's causing these problems. And then I can build a customized program for you where you can receive targeted nutritional supplements, lifestyle support, and drainage preparation, all based on what your body says, not my opinion. And then I do ongoing support. As your body shifts, the testing evolves. We track what's changing, what's clearing, and what's still hidden. Sometimes I might recommend labs, especially if the client needs the data or we hit a deeper roadblock. But often, the field is going to lead the way. And that's when the most profound healing happens. Okay? And let me share something that's real, with you. I've been trained in the science, I've done the certifications, but some of the most accurate insights I've ever had came from listening to spirit. The Holy Spirit, listen to my guides, my angels, however you might want to describe that. When I test people, I pray. When I sense resistance, I pause and I listen. Because sometimes what's not showing up is the very thing that needs to be revealed in God's timing. So it's not just about clearing toxins, it's about creating space for God to do what only He can do. And so if you've been stuck, if you've been told you're fine, but you don't feel fine, if you're tired of the pills, the guesswork, the protocols that go nowhere, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to look deeper. To uncover what's been hidden, to clear what's been blocking, to listen to your body in a new way. And I'd be honored to help you do that. You can schedule a full Q&T assessment with me through the link on my webpage. Okay, let me bring that up again. Let's see here if I can remember how to do that. Let me just do this. Bum, bum, bum. Go here. evansonholistic.com, and right here in the middle of the page, start your journey. Or you can just reach out to me. Let's have a real conversation. Okay. And if you notice right up on the top of the page, there's a code up there in all capital letters called Health Truth. Use that code when you're scheduling your Q&T full assessment. It'll save you $200. I don't know when I'm going to pull that code down. Okay. So I want to end today with something a little different. No more facts, no more protocols. But a moment to just breathe. Because if you're watching this today and it hit you, if you saw yourself in the mold, in the metals, in the trauma, in the hidden burden that no one else has named, I want you to hear me say this. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not crazy. You are not failing at healing. You're carrying things no one ever helped you name. And now, for the first time, you're starting to see it. That's not the end. That's the beginning. So, you see, God designed our bodies to heal. It's hardwired into you. But healing isn't about doing more. It's about removing what doesn't belong. The burden, the trauma, the lies, the toxins, the noise. Healing is what happens when the interference is cleared and the truth is allowed to rise. You weren't meant to carry all of this. You weren't meant to figure it out alone. And the fact that you're still here, still seeking, still showing up, that's proof that the healing you long for is possible. So if you're at the edge of burnout, if you've been praying for direction, if you've done the diets, the detoxes, the doctor visits, and you're still stuck, maybe today was the answer. Maybe what's been missing isn't effort, but clarity. You can't heal what you can't see. But once you see it, you can heal it. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the sacred gift of life and the intricate design of our bodies. Okay? Thank you that you do not make mistakes. You are the great physician, the creator of all systems, physical, emotional, spiritual, and energetic. I lift up every person listening today who feels weary, for the one who's been dismissed, for the one who's felt broken, for the one who's carrying what no one else can see. God, open their eyes to what's hidden. Bring truth into the places that feel dark. Shine your light on the real root causes, not just for healing, but for wholeness. And Lord, give them courage to take the next step. Even if it's small, even if it's scary. Help them know that healing isn't just possible, it's promised when we walk with you. Guide my work as a practitioner. May I be a vessel for your wisdom. May every session be a space of peace, discernment, and transformation. And may every person I serve be drawn closer to you, body, soul, and spirit. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. So if today stirred something in you, don't let it go quiet. Let's talk, let's test, let's uncover what's been holding you back. You can schedule a full quantum nutrition testing assessment right now. Go to the webpage I showed you right here. Okay. Click on that button, start your journey. Don't wait until things get worse. Your body is speaking. Let's finally listen and let's heal together. Okay. And while you're at it, you can follow me on Rumble, on Facebook, and Substack. Share this episode with someone who's stuck, someone who knows there's more. And if you're ready for the full journey, check out my foundations program. We'll get to that because we don't do band-aids here. I do root cause healing. So thanks for spending your Saturday morning with me. I'm Doc Jeff, and I believe God still heals. We just have to make room for it. I'll see you next time. Love you guys.